Are you looking for a way to make nice crisp beads in your panels, but you don't want to spend the money on Karl Fischer's form flowing tool or his dies? Oh, have I got a budget friendly solution for you. Y'all stay tuned, watch the video, see what it is. All right, so the subject at hand is the form flowing tools from Karl Fischer. Now, for anybody who thinks this video is going to be me dissing or putting down Karl, well, wouldn't stop there right here. You're wrong, absolutely wrong. I think Karl Fischer is a genius. He's an innovator. He has come up with some very great tools, and especially to help the DIY guy at home. All right, he is a wealth of knowledge. And inspiration. I watch all of his videos, okay? I'm a big fan of Karl Fischer. Now, with that being said, I'm very budget oriented, all right? I try not to buy anything I can build myself. And I'm just not made of money, like a lot of people. You know, there's a lot of people who are in the car hobby who want to do work, and you just can't afford some of these high-end tools. Like, I don't have a power hammer. I've got the cheap Harbor Freight clutch planishing hammer. I've got a pipe anvil I've made. The most expensive tool that I own, which I just recently got, is a handheld planishing hammer, and it's only got a couple of dies. I bought it used. I've still got to have dies made for it because of what it is. So I mean, eventually I do plan on having a power hammer. You know, it's plans, you know, goals for the future, but not in the cards right now. And to get the nice beads, like Karl shows with his form flowing tool, usually you need a pull max. Karl come up with a great idea of using just an air hammer. So we're going to expand on that just a little bit. If you're a Patreon member of Karl's and go on there, there's a few comments on his form flowing tool, mainly about the dies. And it's a great concept, but it's useless unless you got a CNC plasma to make your dies. That's bullshit. Sorry, pardon my language. You can make cheap dies yourself at home. A prime example is I made one. I've got to put beads in my floor for the mercury. This one was made, this is the first die we made. It is out of 4-inch by 1/8 inch flat stock, and 1.5 by 1/4 bar. Right? This particular one here, this particular die I made, about 24 inches long. It is literally that piece of 4-inch with that 1.5 on each side, which happened to leave a 1-inch gap in the middle. That was on purpose. Then more of the 4-inch, I just drilled a 1-inch hole in each end, cut out the middle part, which you could do with a Sawzall or if you got a plasma. Used to, I wouldn't even really mention the plasma. I recently got one myself. The prices on plasmas have came way down. When I was first really getting into working on cars, I wanted one, but I think the cheapest one you could find was $800 or so bucks. But now you can go on Amazon and get you a $200 something one, and they work great. All right. Now this one, before I show you all the bead, I said you can make your own dies pretty cheap. But let's start off with the heart of this subject matter, and that is the actual form flowing tool. All right. This is Karl Fischer's. Great, I mean, it's fully machined and all that. Holds the Delron tip here in the end of it. Downside to this, to me, there's two. One is the price. Like I said, I ordered it Black Friday. When I ordered it, I think they were basically $73, $72.99, plus the ride here, you know. Now they're back up full price. They're right at basically 80 bucks plus shipping. And they come with 3 Delron tips. Now, I'm not, like I said, I'm not talking about the tool. I think it's a good quality. I didn't have the best experience with that particular tool. Now, it could have been the die I made. I'm not ruling that out. But I snapped all 3 tips. I mean, I've literally got a little pile of them right here. And I mean, when I say I snap them, they just shattered quickly. Now, I have emailed Karl. He has responded. His initial response was I was probably either maybe hovering a little too high, hit the side of the edge. But luckily, me being a YouTube creator myself, I was videoing when I was using it. And I'll show the footage here in a moment. But I was keeping firm pressure and you can see I was keeping it pretty centered, and I was keeping pressure down on it, and my dies just snapped. Now, he is emailing some other people to see if anybody else has had the issue I've had. It could have been a bad batch of the tips, or it literally could be me. It could be operator error on my part. So I'm not saying if you want this, don't, order it. I'm not saying don't do that. By all means, go for it. For the price, I come up with an alternative on my own. By the time I ordered this, I ordered a 4-pack of air hammer bits. There's this one. There's 2 of them that are flat, and then 2 of them that had a little bit of a radius. The other one that had a radius was literally a 1-inch wide. And what I did is I took that 1-inch wide air hammer bit, chucked it up in my drill press, broke out my angle grinder with some 40 grit, and I turned on a drill press, got it spinning, and I just worked it till it was at a profile I liked. And then I switched to 80 grit, and then I broke out some 180, ended up polishing it, and as you can see here, get y'all a little closer. We got a real nice tip. I wish that thing would focus. I've actually been using it. I did have a nice polish on it. Still got a pretty good one on it. It's not focusing on it. I'll get it next to my face. But anyways, that whole 4-pack of bits was 20 some odd dollars. So high end, I'm into this bit for $7, $8, if that. And this one's metal. Now, and like I said, the die, you buy his big dies, if you buy his, say you want all of his large dies, and that's a straight, a 90, like a 45 curve, a 90 curve, an X, all that. It's like $800 for the whole pack. And then you're limited to what you can do with those. But if you want to make your own, this one here is 24 inches long. It's actually longer than I need because I only need a 22-inch bead. I said it is welded. It is literally that 1/4-inch plate welded to the 1/8 inch. Drilled out the holes using a step bit. Beep, beep, beep. Christmas tree bit, whatever you want to call them, all the way to 1 inch. Cut it out. No big deal. Clamp my sheet metal in there, and I started doing this with Karl's. Okay, so I started this beading process with his, and I said I didn't get very far into it before they snapped. Matter of fact, right now I will insert that video clip, and y'all can see me using that tool and those breaking. If y'all notice something I did, by all means put it in the comments and all that, and I'm actually going to order a couple more tips and give this thing another go. But a replacement tip is $13, $14. And at this rate, it would take me a box of them to get through anything. So that's why I went ahead and made my own metal one. And then that one snapped. I barely even. Now, with my own homemade die, my own homemade forming tool, we got some amazingly crisp beads, right? Now, on the back of the mercury floor and the main part of the floor, so this big one is to start my crossbars, but I've got a section that goes under the seat area. It requires 3 beads. And I've started forming, making a buck for it. And I wanted to come up with an alternative way to make these bucks, but as cheap as possible. Now, the kicker on the reason, let me rephrase. The reason Karl Fischer's form flowing tool works the way it does is 2 reasons. This is to get basically the same kind of finish and stuff you would get on like a Pull Max. The thing is Pull Max has a built-in stop. If you go watch Karl's original video, they started off with using MDF sandwiching, and the thing is keeping a consistent bead because there's nothing for it to stop on. That's why he went to his 3-piece design. There's the top piece, which is your pattern you follow with a tool. The middle piece is actually what it forms into, but it also sets the depth, how thick you want or how deep you want your bead. And then the bottom piece, which is, if you look at his forms, they're just flat. That is the stop. That is what your bead ends up hitting against and stopping. So that is why you get a particular depth, and then you end up basically planishing it out. And that's how that works. And it works well. With that being said, the price of metal is expensive. If I wanted to go, well, I bought 2 pieces of scrap steel, not even full sheets. There's this one here, which this is 2 foot by 2.5 foot roughly. And I got 2 of these. And this was almost 40 bucks, $37 for both of them. And like I said, that's scrap. Now I know that don't sound like much, but when you get to the point that I can make one side, and yes, I can, if you do it right, you can flip it and invert it and make 2 pieces out of it. But when you're doing one-off parts, especially on a budget, all that adds up. Like say you want, like he did this big firewall. If you're doing the big firewall, a full sheet of 1/4-inch plate, I think the cheapest right now I've seen is $150. It might be more like $180 for a 1/4-inch. And you're going to be using a good chunk of one sheet by the time you make that big form like he did, because you got to have it in 3 separate pieces. So, with that being said, price of steel gets expensive. We want to make a cheaper version. What I decided to do is kind of combine his original effort with his new one. And what I mean by that, like he started off with the MDF. I have the OSB that's on the walls here. It's 7/16 OSB. It's not super thick. But I cut out 2 pieces to the shape I needed for my buck, which, I think that camera will follow me. Nope. Get this thing to lock back on here, sorry. There we go. All right. Here's the bead pattern we're getting ready to do. You can see it's 2 straights and a 45, and it's kind of an odd shape. So I cut 2 pieces of the OSB with this shape here. And then I went with some 1/4-inch plywood. I cut 2 more. So now we're at 4 pieces, right? 2 7/16, and then 2 at 1/4-inch. And the way I figured we could make this cheap is you take 3 pieces. You take one of your 7/16, which you can do thicker. I wouldn't go any thinner. I would at least go thicker. But this is what I had. It was on hand. All right. So you take your 1/4 inch, both of your 1/4 inches, your 7/16, take some wood screws, clamp them, screw them together. Lay out your pattern, drill your holes, cut everything out. You end up with 2 of them that look like this. Well, one at 7/16 and then 2 pieces of your 1/4 inch plywood. Set this one and one of your 1/4 inch plywoods aside. Here's my other 1/4 inch plywood, right? So we're setting those aside. Because that top one, well, let me get a little more detail here. This 7/16 one, will be the top one. It has your form that you're going to use to flow your tool into. So this is the top, goes on top of the sheet metal. The second one, this is a 1/4 inch. This is your depth. This is how thick we want the bead to go down. All right? Now comes the tricky part. You can't use just wood because you need something hard. You need that metal to hit on, you need your forming tool to hit your sheet metal on top of other metal, and that helps planish it out. So, that being said, I took the other piece of the 1/4 inch, but you see these holes here are larger than these. Matter of fact, if I overlay them, you can see one inside the other. What that is, I took this 1/4 inch bar stock, lined it up with my holes, traced around it. Now we're sandwiching it. And then the bottom piece, already got a bunch of bolts in it, is just the one with no pattern cut in. So the only thing you're going to do is take that bottom one, take your 1/4 inch, then you're going to inset your 1/4 inch bars. Then take your other 1/4 inch as your depth, and actually has the proper shape, which I do need to, I've already ran a test piece in this. I've got a little waviness. I did this with a jigsaw. Take your time, get your forms right, because stuff like the little waves will show up in your beads. Anyways, you want to put that one on top. Then you're going to run in some wood screws, sandwich everything together. Don't be shy with the wood screws. Just got to make sure they're not going to get in the way of your actual bolts to go through the metal. All right, with all those in, you should end up with a piece that looks like this. You can see the metal right here in the back. And what that does, of course, you got to drill your holes for your the bolts to clamp it in. Then you clamp in your metal, put on your top piece, bolt everything down, you got a sandwich. Now, let me grab this other one. A couple things I've noticed. Like I said, this is the first one I've done, and this is with a metal die. This thing is super crisp on the edges. It's got a nice pattern. A little light sanding will take most of any marks out of it. Now the other one, now remember when I said, take your time on your pattern. Like I said, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna do some file work. I'm gonna get it straight edges. You can see some of the little bit of waviness, and that is literally transferred from the die. But again, there's a good shot of how tall that bead is. These are super nice. Now, like I said, these need a little refinement, and it seems to take a little bit more work into the wood. I think even the bottom piece of wood is acting more as a cushion and not letting it hit as hard as just on metal. But that is a very cheap way. I'm into this. I mean, like I said, I got a 4 foot by 8 foot piece of the 1/4 inch. It was damaged. I got the whole sheet for 15 bucks. The OSB is real cheap. I think it's like $15 a sheet anyways. And then your bar stock, buying it that way is cheap. So you can make a very large, intricate pattern doing it this way. You might have to get creative with how you lay out some of your things. But this is a much more cost-effective way of making your pattern. So with that being said, I'm actually going to pull that back section of the floor out, set it up on the sawhorses. I got to move a few things around. And we're going to put this thing to work. Before I do that though, like I said, I'm going to get some of this waviness out of my die. It's not bad, but I'm sure the camera will hopefully pick it up. I'll hit it out with a file and stuff like that. So the straighter I can get both of these. The top one is not the one I'm really worried about. Like I said, this is what you're flowing. You can make it a little wider. It's the one you got sandwiched on top. The one for your depth. That is what it follows the most. So that's where any waviness it'll stick out will really show. So this is the one you really need to make sure is spot on. All right. But yeah, I mean, sandwiched in, it's a little thick. It'll be a little heavy and cumbersome, but so is 1/4 inch plate. And those are pretty good looking beads. I think this is a cheap alternative. Like I said, I'm not bashing Karl's tool. His quality of machine work and everything is phenomenal. I'm just a poor guy. I can't afford all this stuff. I would love to have his form flowing tool that I use to make profiles and stuff. It's about 500 bucks. Like I said, and it's mainly 3 pieces of 1/4 inch plate sandwiched together. He's got a couple die, especially cut and all that, but I think I can build the whole thing for myself for about $100 or less. Maybe 100, and of course I will have to get another hammer. So, but anyways, without any other ado, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this top one off, smooth out my transitions for the, or my form flow, get it nice as straight as I can to get that little bit of a waviness out. Because that little bit of waviness is just enough to drive me nutty. My little bit of OCD. But other than that, I mean, I think it's a good looking tool. I can't really think of much I can do to improve it. If you guys can think of a better way to do this for cheaper, I'm all ears. Or maybe just a hair more, a little bit more in cost and a better version. Yeah. Like I said, you don't have to break the bank to do this stuff. I've never taken a metal shaping class in my life. Not one, right? I watch YouTube tutorials and, you know, I'm self-taught. I buy tools when I can, and I'm slowly upgrading my tools, but hold on. I mean, here's a prime example of stuff you can do with enough know-how, or not even know-how. I mean, just a little patience and trial and error. You can do amazing work. You don't have to have all these high-end tools. I think, let's see, before we get into this, like I said, I'm kind of a rant on it at the moment. I have this here for a planishing hammer, and I've lost one of the dies, so I've only got a couple dies. I'm limited on what I can do with it. I have this sheet metal shear, which I got on clearance at Harbor Freight for like 80 something bucks. I got a pipe anvil I built myself out of scrap. Buddy of mine was a pipe fitter. He brought me the pipe, so it didn't cost me anything, and then a little bit of material I had here. I've got a drill press I bought close to 20, 30 years ago. The old Craftsman drill press, still works. That's the only thing I use. I don't have a big one. I don't have a lathe or a mill. I've got a used Harbor Freight English wheel in my basement that I've only used a few times, and that was when I was forming the cell panels and stuff here on the Mercury, or not the Mercury, on the 51. You can do a lot of work you can do some very quality work with very little tools when you put your mind to it. So, anyways, we're going to go ahead and get the beads put in that floor. I'm going to fix these forms here off camera, and I'll come back to y'all in just a minute. All right, we got our piece bucked up, I guess you'd say. So I'm going to set up the GoPro. And we're just going to get these beads formed, show you how well this works. I am going to put it on time lapse. It'll be a little, well, I'm going to let the GoPro run at regular speed, but I'll speed it up on video a little bit. Anyways, let's get this done. pressure build up. That's the downside. My pressure's just struggling to keep up with the air gun. We're beating up pretty good. We're going to be second too, so I'm going to apologize when the pressure catches up. I'll continue on. We'll catch you something. All right, stay tuned. All right, sorry for the background noise, compressor still running. But let's show you what we got. I think those look pretty good. Now they're not perfect. Like I said, I think I need to refine this a little bit more before I would do something like this on a firewall that's more seen. But for a floor, this is real good. You can see there's a little bit. You can still feel a little bit, and there's a few spots I could probably do it a little bit more. But like I said, this is a floorboard. Once the seat and stuff is in and carpet and all that, this will never be seen again. But it looks real good. So, our cheap little form we made works very well. So what can I say? You can make your own form flowing tool from a, just buy the pack of bits for the air hammer, radius one. And then, like I said, doing that sandwich stack of the wood with just your little bit of bar stock behind your beads, it works. You got to work it. It seems like it takes a little more work to get them in shape, but it still turns out real nice. I mean, I'm proud of that. I think it looks good. And I see, my pattern's still underneath the bottom, but literally, get all the stuff moved over. Sorry, let me set y'all down for a second. There we go. Flip this thing upside down. Gonna work just fine for this side too. Same thing with the other one. I have to take it apart and flip all the pieces, but that works. And then this section here will basically be done. And because we got this big sheet, and I've still got a whole sheet over there of 7/16. We'll be making one big one for these. Now it does take a little bit, I don't know, I'm probably 20 minutes doing these 3. So it's gonna take a while to do all the beads on that floor, but it's a nice process. It gives you a nice bead. And you can see the panel's still flat. Matter of fact, this was my first test panel I did. And I mean, it's straight still. So unlike actual bead rolling, this doesn't distort the panel. So Hope y'all like this. Like I said, again, I'm not talking bad about Karl Fischer. I think he makes great products. I'm just giving y'all a very budget alternative, is the way I see it. As I get more communication from Karl about these tips on this form flowing thing, I'll let you know. Like I said, it could have been me. It could have been a user thing. In a way, I think I'm more aggravated that I spent the money on that when I could have, made my own for a fraction of the price. So, that being said, I think we're going to call this one quits. I appreciate y'all watching. Tune in for the next one. Like, subscribe, comment. I said I'd like to hear y'all's opinion. If you got a better way, let me know, or ideas to improve this. Love to hear them. I really would. Anyways, we'll catch y'all on the next one.